That's right. We're just getting started. And many of you all were there on day one at the Sanger Theater, where I stood before all of you all and said that I promised to work with excellence and urgency. We came in with real focus right off the bat on day one, working to stabilize basic city services and also resolving the city's budget crisis. When this administration talks about progress, we also want to make sure that we are tracking our progress, that we are matching our progress with data so that every day we can see that we're actually moving the ball forward and we have the numbers to prove it. We started right off the bat, as you heard Steve Nelson mention, on fixing what's broken with a real focus on infrastructure and budget. So we started with our basic city services, things that were broken for years and accepted as normal. Because fixing our basic city services ultimately makes our city more sustainable, affordable, and also, of course, easier to live in. We launched on the Lights On initiative and fixed 2,300 lights, targeting the darkest corridors first, using data, including public safety data, to guide every one of our decisions. We have now filled more than 10,000 potholes. And we have now raised our weekly pothole goal from 500 to 1,500. As you saw in the video, we completed the very first in-house concrete repairs in over 20 years, bringing that back in-house. We began fulfilling one of my biggest campaign promises, and that is hiring in-house staff for street maintenance. And we've now begun onboarding 50 employees coming into DPW so that they can be working on street maintenance every single day, and that will be transformative for our city. We launched the Infrastructure Coordinating Council, which is similar to the Super Bowl task force, because I believe we need that level of coordination and collaboration on infrastructure projects year-round, not just when there's a Super Bowl or major event coming to the city of New Orleans. That is what you, the people of New Orleans, deserve. And so they have all different stakeholders and agencies meeting weekly and really working towards delivering on roughly $4 billion worth of infrastructure projects right here in New Orleans. And many of these projects also include green infrastructure and flood mitigation. On the fiscal side, we have our eye on every single dollar. And the guy who is managing that so closely is my first deputy mayor, Joe Giarrusso. Thank you, Joe. He is focusing on the big things, like making sure that we really get a handle on overtime management. And we've been able to create $8 million worth of reductions from this year compared to last year. And he's also focusing in on the small things, like travel expenses. We are down 90% Q1 of this year compared to the travel expenses from last year. And then we've also been working on additional sales tax audits, really ramped those up, finding about $7 million of money that we will now be recovering. And of course, in Baton Rouge, through the legislative session, we are advancing a bill right now that will create about $40 million worth of reversals of fees and fines that we currently owe to a pension system that we thought was pretty punitive, but that's a $40 million reduction right there. Also, just as important, we started proclaiming across the city, across the state and the nation that the city of New Orleans is open for business. And so one of the first things that we started to do is a whole revamp of our safety and permits department. So much so that we can already report progress. We can tell you that in the beginning of 2025, it took roughly 40 days to get a building permit. We have that now down to 14. We've also really amplified the importance of working as a region. New Orleans working alone, it does not prove to be as fruitful as all of us working as a region, working in concert with parish presidents around the New Orleans metro area. And so recently I started this level of outreach with our regional parish presidents, and I thought this was something obvious to do, but they said that this was the first time that a mayor had reached out in many, many years to work in this level of regional coordination. So I look forward to continuing that work. We've also started doing what, in my opinion, is really just the obvious, and that is returning unused city-owned property back into commerce. Also, after 20 years, we're now moving forward with very important developments, including the West End development. We have also launched the master planning process for the Municipal Auditorium and Armstrong Park, because not only is this an economic driver, this also ensures that we are cultivating the next generation of culture bearers and also creating resilience through flood mitigation and green infrastructure. Then let's go to Lincoln Beach. Lincoln Beach now has a real plan for opening with an emphasis on community engagement and ensuring we are fighting for even more dollars to ensure that this project's future phases also come to fruition. Because whether it's Lincoln Beach or whether it's the new beautiful Riverfront Park, not only are these economic drivers, we're finally winning on reconnecting the people of New Orleans to its water, from the lake to the river. And ultimately, let me just say that for my entire leadership team, I can tell you that the well-being of the people of New Orleans is our major driver. It's one of our main focuses. So whether it's water main breaks or flood prevention, working on health initiatives and public safety, the well-being of the people of our city is something that is top of mind in everything that we do. So for the Sewage and Water Board, it is exactly why we are fighting to pass House Bill 573, because right now the city has no authority to direct Sewage and Water Board operations, but ultimately the mayor and the city council get blamed for all the problems. And so it's time to fix that and get more local control of our Sewage and Water Board and put us more in line with all the parishes across the state of Louisiana. We're also, of course, working to make our city safer. We changed the New Orleans Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness to the New Orleans Office of Coordination and Emergency Management to better align the office with its capabilities and to bring clarity that this is the agency that will be coordinating city assets for major events and emergencies. So whether that has to do with any type of major barricades, whether they're metal or whether they're concrete barricades, to whether it's putting trucks certain places, this is going to be the office that will be coordinating those assets. No longer will Chief Kirkpatrick and her team have to call around to all different city departments to get what they need. All they have to do is call Chief Harrison and he'll get the job done for you. When it came to Mardi Gras 2026 was one of the largest Mardi Gras we've had in quite some time, and it was also one of the safest. And while it was also one of the largest Mardi Gras we've had in quite some time, I want to tell you that we also were able to manage a reduction in overtime, saving about $1.5 million compared to last year. Great job on that, Joe. And let me briefly talk about my main priority when it comes to crime, and that has to do with tackling violent crime. And I made it very clear to our state and federal partners that that was my #1 priority. And I made sure that they knew what my #1 priority was, because on the second day that I was in office, I brought in all of our federal and state partners and I said, whatever it takes, go after the most violent offenders here in the city of New Orleans. I'll also say this. After that meeting, I was told that they hadn't had a meeting like that with the mayor for many, many years. So working once again with that level of collaboration and coordination, I believe will certainly pay off for us. Our health department, let me talk about them, because what they are doing every single day is transformative for our city. In fact, the New Orleans Health Department continues to lead the way in demonstrating how cities can make strides in improving health outcomes. Recently, they launched SNAP and Medicaid enrollment in neighborhoods across our city and launched a substance abuse mobile resource clinic that connected 219 people to services in the very first week that it launched. And let me say this, look, I am proud of the 100 days and the things that I've just mentioned that we accomplished in the 100 days, and there's things that didn't necessarily make my talking points. But we're just getting started. There is so much more to do. And as I go into the rest of my term, one of the things that we wanted to do is ensure that we were listening to the people of New Orleans on what they wanted to see for the city of New Orleans. And that's why my transition team, they then took on the effort of public engagement over this 100 days to ensure that we were listening to the people of New Orleans. So they did a few things. One, they ended up launching surveys, and we received surveys from 5,800 residents around the city. We also started to have a variety of different public meetings so that anyone who wanted to come to a public meeting and speak directly to either my administration or the transition team could engage face-to-face on what they wanted to see in their city over the next 4 years. And we had about 400 people show up to some of these in-person meetings throughout the different council districts. What's interesting, too, is that as we started to ask the different residents who came through on these public engagement sessions, what we found out is that about 2,400 residents who came through told us that they've never had city government really ask them for their input before. And so that's something that we're going to change. That's something that will continue on through my entire term in office. So here is what we heard from the respondents of the surveys, and here is what, of course, I will also be implementing into my next steps for the remainder of my term. Overall, what people said is what we've been hearing for quite some time, is that they do want to feel safe. They want to be able to afford to live and to stay in the city of New Orleans. And they want a government that actually shows up every single day to create a better New Orleans. You told us that the basics have to work, but they have to work permanently. And the why is because creating a city where the basic city services actually are working actually creates a more sustainable, affordable, and livable city. So here's what we're doing. So on the basics, that's why we're hiring in-house electricians, in-house street maintenance workers, and developing a plan to ensure that our traffic lights stay working and that they're also timed properly. And that's, yes. But that's why we're also working on really transformational reforms as well, with the Sewage and Water Board in particular, because guys, we cannot keep doing things the same and expect different outcomes. And I know that change is hard, but we have to push for these changes if we want a better New Orleans. On public safety, we're advancing prevention-focused, long-term public safety strategies, treating conditions that drive crime with the same level of urgency that we are working on enforcement. I want to talk about the decrease in crime, because this is certainly good news, but it is not at all time to celebrate. This is time for us to continue to drive and to focus on how we continue to decrease crime even further. And when we talk about the roles of each department, I want to say this, that sustainability and resilience is being embedded into every single one of our city departments, which is why I created a position for Deputy CAO of Sustainability, so that across city departments, whether it's the Health Department or whether it's Public Works, and in our Infrastructure Coordination Council, my vision of ensuring that resilience and sustainability across all city departments and across all that we do is implemented and that it gets done. You told us that you want to start a business and you want to be able to get a good paying job here in the city of New Orleans, that you really want to build something here. So that's why we're working with a variety of different stakeholders, including the state's Office of Economic Development, to capture as many opportunities as possible. Because not only are we working to, of course, retain the current businesses that are here in New Orleans, we have to do all possible as well to diversify our economy and bring in new industry. And I'll tell you this, I'm seeing such great opportunity right now in New Orleans East. With the excitement around the Artemis project, which has, of course, direct ties to the Michoud facility, and the expansion of the Lit Port Terminal, we are working every day on creating a pathway to ensure New Orleans East receives the long-awaited economic boost that it deserves. We're also, of course, pushing aggressively on the revamp of safety and permits, and I also want to increase transparency around safety and permits, which is why we're working right now on building a dashboard so you, the people of New Orleans, can see how quickly City Hall is delivering permits. We're also scaling up the concierge service at safety and permits so the City Council no longer has to be the concierge service for safety and permits. We are, of course, supporting our workers. We're laser focused on supporting our workers, which is why our Office of Community Development is delivering a coordinated citywide workforce strategy to connect employers, training providers, and job seekers, and to ensure we can get people to work in a much better fashion as well. We're taking a really hard look at the Regional Transit Authority, the RTA. We've now put in a new board, and I will be pushing for real reform, some real changes. It appears that right now the RTA is no longer a regional transit authority. It's time to get that regional piece back and ensure that we have an accountable RTA, one that is responsive to the people of New Orleans, and one that can get the people of New Orleans to where they need to go. You told us that youth and families, of course, must be prioritized. So we're working to reform NORD so that every neighborhood has safe parks, playgrounds, and community centers that make a real difference. Our health department is also working to find solutions to major issues like food insecurity and access to healthy foods, maternal health outcomes, and overall neighborhood well-being. You told us building affordability and housing should also be one of my top priorities, and it is. That's why we're developing a 5-year housing strategy, increasing supply, preserving what exists, closing gaps, and alongside it, we're also putting together a very integrated homelessness response so that the city, providers, state, federal, and philanthropic partners, that we're all working together, putting as many resources together so that we can ensure that we can find everybody a safe home and we can end homelessness here in the city of New Orleans. We also know that we are a wonderful city and a city that loves to win. And those of you all here who are my close friends and know me personally know that I personally like to win. And so I'll say this, you know, as mayor of this city, we have a lot of issues. And people often ask me, you know, it's like, Helena, there's so many things that are happening in this city, you know, how do you not feel overwhelmed? And this is how. Because I like to win. And so every one of the issues that I see before me, I see it as an exciting challenge that as we chip away at it, as we resolve some of these issues, that to me is a win. So guys, we got a lot of wins ahead of us. And so that's why I'm saying that, you know, we're just getting started and you have a very enthused and excited team to get the work done. You know, as we work on the basics though, I also want to say this, that we also have to move forward on some major, more visionary projects as well. We can't just push those to the side. And that's why I'm also pushing for some big things. And some of these big things have been tried before, but that doesn't mean that we should not look at them anymore. One of them includes creating and building a new civic center for the city of New Orleans, essentially a new city hall. Because the people of New Orleans should be proud of their city hall, should be proud to walk into the building that represents their city. And I think it's also really important that our city employees, where they're working in a place where they know that we're actually valuing their work. And that's where we're also going to be pushing on moving forward on a new civic center. So for City Hall 2 as it operates, one of the challenges that we met over and over again is that there are many processes to, in my opinion, what are very simple things. whether it's hiring people, whether it's contract approvals, whether it's even some of the processes for safety and permits. And we're doing all possible right now to cut red tape, because to me, the excuse of, well, this is just the way that things have always been done, is not something that we are going to tolerate and we think is acceptable, and it's also not something that the people of New Orleans want to hear either. So change is hard, as I keep saying. Change is hard, but we're pushing through to eliminate that red tape so that City Hall is ultimately not just showing up, but more responsive to you. So, look, I'm going to start closing here because I know I've been a little bit long today. But as I close, I'll say this: you know, my leadership team who's here today, and those who are actually out doing work out throughout the city right now. One of the things that we've always said is that, look, we don't promise perfection. We are certainly not perfect people, but what we do promise and what we do commit to is to work hard every single day and push hard every single day and show up every single day to create a better New Orleans for the people of this city. And I want to acknowledge my leadership team, my deputy mayors and my city attorney first. My first deputy mayor, Joe Geruso, my city attorney, Charlene Gibson, deputy mayor public safety, Michael Harrison, my chief of staff and deputy mayor, Kevin Ferguson, deputy mayor of economic development, Jenny Maines, our deputy mayor of health and human services, Jennifer Vegno, deputy mayor of external affairs, Renee Laparulleri. I also want to acknowledge our deputy CAOs, Deputy CAO of Infrastructure, Steve Nelson, who's actually representing me at a Sewage and Water Board meeting right now, Deputy Mayor of City Services, Austin Wiltie, and Deputy CAO of City Services, Austin Wiltie, and Deputy CAO of Sustainability, Megan Williams. I also want to acknowledge my partners on the City Council, the entire City Council. You know, there's been this great level of collaboration and coordination, and so many of the things that I just talked about could not have been done without the partnership of the City Council. So I want to acknowledge the members who are here. Of course, President Morel, who is here, Councilmember Eugene Green, Councilmember Leslie Harris, and then we do have some council members who've been up in Baton Rouge working on some things for the session. Council members McCarran, Willard, and Hughes up in Baton Rouge, and then Councilmember King acknowledged his great work as well. So look, all of us together in this level of coordination and collaboration, I want to tell you this, that we're going to do all possible to lift up every neighborhood, every family, and every dream, because the people of New Orleans have waited long enough. We have the will, and when there is a will, there's a way, and we are all in. Thank you so much. Now, not quite done yet. Before we wrap, we have some brief comments real quick from some of the transition chairs. We'll start with Emily Arata, Cedric Richmond, Ryan Berger, and then Desi Charbonnet.